Hello everybody, and welcome back to Nerdy Miniatures. In today's video, we actually have something a little different, as we have a Warhammer exclusive figure to build and paint. In today's video, we will be building the Ringbearers. In the video, we'll be putting them together and then painting the bases. Next week, we'll be returning to our Battle of Edoras videos, but as we picked these up, I just knew I had to do a video on these. So if this interests you, then keep on watching. Let's get into the video. Right, so the first thing we did with these figures was glue them to their bases. Just like our individual characters, like Helm Hammerhand, these are made of I think what looks like resin and potentially a plastic blend. So for this, I ended up using super glue to stick them onto their bases to make sure they did not move. But due to its quick drying time, it meant we could move towards the next steps pretty quickly. But before that, let's take a closer look at these figures. Although this set does not include every single ring bearer, as this kit does not include Sauron or Deagle, but it does include the other 5. First, we have Isildur, King of Gondor, and ancestor of Aragorn. After cutting the ring from Sauron's finger, he was supposed to destroy it in the fires of Mount Doom, but compelled by its power, he instead claimed it as a spoil of war. Despite this, he did not hold the ring for long. According to Tolkien's Legendarium, he only held this for around 2 years before his death, and the ring was lost, falling from his finger into the River Anduin, where it sat for almost 2,500 years. Clearly, the River Anduin was the ring's longest bearer. It would then go on to be rediscovered by Deagle. Moving on to our next figure, we have Gollum, also known as Smeagol. Unlike the ring's previous owners, Gollum held the ring for a very long time, holding it for 500 years. But this came at a cost. Although it extended his life, he was once a simple store hobbit, but by the time of his demise, he was a shell of his previous self, and now a decrepit, revolting creature, truly a victim to the ring's corruption. Then we have Bilbo Baggins, the first Baggins to hold the ring. He discovered the ring by accident, while imprisoned beneath the Misty Mountains on his quest to reclaim Erebor with Thorin's company. After finding the ring, he encounters its previous bearer, Gollum. After beating him in a game of riddles, Bilbo narrowly escapes with his life, taking the ring with him. Bilbo would go on to hold the ring for nearly 60 years, only falling truly into its corruption in the later years when it came time to part with it. Now moving on to Frodo, the one who would go on to destroy the One Ring in the War of the Ring and defeat Sauron, vanquishing him from Middle-earth once and for all. Despite how rapidly it happens in the films, Frodo would actually hold the ring for 17 years before leaving the Shire on his quest to destroy the ring. And last but not least, we have Samwise Gamgee, the bearer who held the ring for only a little time, but had every intention of destroying the One Ring after he believed Shelob had killed Frodo. But once they were reunited, he gave the ring back to Frodo, relinquishing any hold the ring may have had over him, as he knew the One Ring had to be destroyed, and he was going to help Frodo do it, no matter the cost. In total, he held the ring for about 2 days. Right, moving on to the products used. As these miniatures are designed to look like they're all wearing the ring, they are painted to look invisible, save for a few rocks here and there. But that means it was extra important to get the bases looking as good as I could possibly get them. For sand, I used a kit from the army painter called the basing set. As for the paints, I used Vallejo model colour in white, watered down to create the perfect base. And I also used base Mournfang to base the other figures. These will all be left in the description down below. I wanted to base these figures in Mournfang brown to prevent any dark spots of the black plastic peeking through. Applying the glue to the figures, I spread it across the areas that it needed to and placed them down. This took me a couple minutes because I had to carve away a few extra little bits of resin that were sticking to the feet, and because they were obviously clear and transparent, this made it a little bit more difficult to determine what was actually part of the figure and what was part of the plastic stubs that had been holding it to its base. But in the end, they all stuck down perfectly fine and they looked really, really good. Now moving on to next steps. After Mournfang Brown was entirely dry, I went in with the basing glue from the Army Painter set. Now this is a really, really thick PVA and it dries clear once left to dry. Moving on to the supplies. I looked through the little kit that I had in front of me, and in the end I went with this little gravel-like rock bag that would be really good for creating a dirt/rock effect. I sprinkled a small amount into my palm and then dusted it over the figure, using my finger to press down certain areas to make sure it was stuck down. I did this on 4 of the 5 figures. For Gollum, I had to paint a little bit of his base. I stippled it into a mixture of originally white, then followed up by a very light grey to make sure the rocks looked less tidy. I then went in with a predominantly grey mix with a hint of black, before going in with a darker grey with a slightly more black to create a gradient effect up the rocks, leaving just a few peeking through at the top around where Gollum stood. Once everything had been left to dry, it was time to move on to the scenery. Once again, using the basing kit, I took little elements out. So for Gollum's figure, I used the moss, and for the other figures, I used a collection of still grass and little sticker grass that I could then pop over the figures. I also used a tiny piece of driftwood on one of the figures. I did attempt to use this on a couple more, but for some reason it just didn't want to stick down, but that's okay, because I actually ended up preferring these figures without that anyway. And that is it for the Ringbearers. Short video than usual, but pretty fun one nonetheless. If you enjoyed this kind of content and want to see me build some more Warhammer exclusives, then let me know. I would be happy to do so. Down in the description down below, you'll find a link to my partner Rothmer's channel, so if you enjoy MMOs and action RPGs, then please feel free to check that out. You will also find a link to my channel, so if you enjoy all things fantasy lore, I cover topics from Tolkien, Game of Thrones, Age of Sigmar, and most recently, The Witcher. Anyway, that'll be it from me for now. Hope you guys have a wonderful day or night wherever you are in the world. And as always, peace out.